It is September 27th, 2023. It is 4 p.m. East Coast, United States. And this is episode 47 of Web3x3 PODCAST. This week, we're going to be discussing how Amazon enters the chat. The big story this week, why Amazon's big AI investment might actually hurt Web3. Could Saudi Arabia overturn the crypto industry? And how does Spotify's latest move play into Web3's evolution? Mike also spotted a great one for us, guys, a little bit of Xbox, Microsoft update. So we'll hit all these. I'm joined, as usual, by my lovely co-host, Michelle Peterson-Clark.
Hello, everyone. And I've got big news, because my news is that tomorrow I will have been doing this podcast with you guys for 1 year.
It feels like 50.
I feel like it was yesterday.
And
I mean, in a good way.
And you're not even married to me.
And also Mike Neubauer, your ops guy.
How's it going?
Well, then I guess, Michelle, it's a happy birthday for you, right?
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. I was hoping Mike would sing for us, frankly, but...
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want viewership.
All right, so for those who don't know, the Web3x3 is your weekly insight into the intricacies of blockchain and business. The purpose of this show is to bring a little bit of understanding of how the blockchain technologies are evolving, how you can use them in your marketing, and how it is changing the face of the business world, really in capacities and ways people aren't yet aware of. So this is an educational show. We're not here to pitch, but we are here to help bring some informational education. I'm going to take us into story number one. This is coming to us from The Verge. Amazon will invest up to $4 billion into OpenAI rival Anthropic. There's an AI startup. It's founded by two folks who used to work at OpenAI, and Amazon is going to take a minority ownership of the company for $4 billion, which stakes their claim in the AI arms race. Amazon will incorporate this AI tech into their product suite. And as a quick side note, I thought it was interesting, Google owns 10% of this company already. I think for the lead conversation on this piece, Mike, can we start with you to get some thoughts around this?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the intro, you mentioned that this is sort of like a potential issue when it comes to Web3. I don't see that at all. In fact, I think that this is merely an integration into the current services that they provide in AWS. We know those are real business solutions that, Amazon does offer, whether it's cloud storage or anything like that. And just last week, I believe it was, we covered the article that discussed Amazon utilizing blockchain for an additional business service. So this is actually an integration and a melding of all of the services combined, AI, Web3, and now obviously what they already have in place, this AWS. This is a really interesting and decent sign for where things are going on the technology side for business solutions.
So the Anthropic model is quote unquote safer because it's guided by a set of principles that allows it to revise its responses automatically. The computer will basically take over. This is AI, rather than having a human set of guidelines that it's going to work from. So you're talking about AI as the now curbs on this thing. That's where I thought it was kind of interesting. And Mike, I'm surprised that you, of all people, what's more centralized than Amazon Web Services?
I mean, we discussed this last week. It's a business solution that I guess is, the Achilles heel, but everybody kind of needs an online presence in some way, shape, or form, right? I mean, if you're a mom and pop shop, are you going to start your own internet company just because you need to be online, or are you going to utilize a service platform and provider such as Amazon?
Yeah.
This is nothing different from that. Obviously, I don't like the centralization element of it, but I love the fact that they're actually integrating the technology. I think, again, we need these companies to start understanding that this technology is a viable solution for where they want to be. If Amazon is a failure in that, there's other solutions that some of these companies can reach out to that provide that same service. And that's where, again, the ownership of the information, the fact that it doesn't sit on some server somewhere in some Amazon warehouse, these are good signs on the utilization of where the technology is leading the business world.
Michelle, what are your thoughts on the matter?
So the Amazon platform is called Bedrock, and they are encouraging people to use that service because they've got some AI built in. But for you to actually build your AI apps or your platforms using Amazon's Bedrock services, we have talked before about, this centralized nature of it. And as Mike just said before, like it's, putting all of your eggs in one basket is going to be a bit of a scary thing, I think. Like if you've got an AWS service that runs your website and you've got an AI app that is on Bedrock and suddenly Amazon decides they don't like you one day, what happens then? Your whole business goes down. So, like I think that it's really important to consider what services you use when you're setting up a business, or even if you're transferring your business from some other kind of service. There's no doubt that AWS is a big money spinner for Amazon, and a lot of people in the Web2 and Web3 environments use it. But, it's important to make sure that you have things like your DNS servers and, other things to do with your business on some other platform, so that your whole business doesn't go down when you're in one centralized place. And I think that's really important.
But this
and
is
the backup. The backup system is blockchain, right? Like that's what we keep harping on here. It is a sequential ledger of all of these data input transactions. And I don't necessarily mean transactions in the financial sense. I mean it just in the data storage sense, right? So this is an auditable system, an immutable system, and a system that you can actually reference, and you don't really need to rely on that one system to remain intact in order for it to be functional and accessible anywhere in the world.
So I agree with you on all of the blockchain aspects, Mike. It's definitely the better system, and it's going to be more reliable. The AI piece is quasi-separate, and that is a little bit more concerning to me, because it's one thing when your servers could go down and you've lost capabilities. It's another when you've got an intelligence, quote unquote, monitoring or whatever, has an opinion about your company. Like that's where it could be scary if Amazon were to become a political organization, if whatever, like the minute you are tied to an AI makes possible things that couldn't happen previous if bad actors wanted to do things. Now, I'm not Chicken Little here. It also enables amazing things. And I think Amazon, from a business perspective, has no choice but to get into the race. The piece that really interested...
Of course.
Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I'm saying of course they do. And if they don't, who's going to? Let's be honest.
Google.
I mean, of the big boys, they are all boys, so we can say that without being politically incorrect.
Says the lady of the group.
But
well, no, Apple's having... They've definitely stumbled.
Microsoft, Google,
Apple's
Amazon,
notably absent right now.
Yeah, but they've got to have to be working on something. Like they're not silly.
But Apple's not really a business solution, right? Like Google or AWS is. They don't offer those types of service. Well, it's more personal rather than business, right?
Yeah,
I agree with that, Mike.
So, and sure. I think where they're going to make strides, and I'll keep saying this until the clip falls on somebody's lap over there. I think they're going to make strides in embedding the technology directly into the hardware component. And I think that's, we'll talk about what Microsoft did a little bit later in the show, but I think that's really where things are kind of moving towards. Every time I talk about big tech, I get cut out. So there's clearly something going on there.
The vanity driveway has nothing to do with that.
So as far as the AI is concerned, again, let's stop putting AI in this bucket, which means a million things. Let's just focus on the actual definition of what it is. What is the intelligence that is artificial and a learning software that is going to be important for businesses to capitalize using this service?
I would angle it as how will they use it? Not what we know what it is. It's
what is it?
It's a self-learning technology.
Okay, so what is it learning in this capacity? Like as far as the service that is provided by Amazon, what is it actually functional? What is it actually designed to do as far as learning about your business, how to operate your business more efficiently, and how does that not lump into just an overall database like Google would?
So I'm going to put my old Wall Street hat back on and say it's going to learn how to make more money from you, right? Every one of these people that are on these servers they are customers. So that's the purpose of it. How will they go about doing it? Well, that's the question. That's a great question, Mike. It will learn whatever Amazon decides it needs to help them make more money.
Okay, so you're looking at it from the Amazon prism. I'm asking from the business perspective. Why, as a business, would I want to invest into an AI learning software provided by Amazon? What does that do for my business? It
will help you optimize your business, and I'll make that. I'll define that. Right now, Microsoft has their AIs in the LinkedIn product. The certain features of it will help you optimize your profile, right? How you can better say what you do, title what your your jobs descriptions, etc. So they're giving tools to the users to use their own product better. Great. That's always been a time tested, that works. That's what Amazon's going to do. If you've got the back end of your business set up on Google, for example, G Suite, and you were to do that, say, with Amazon would say things like, well, if we integrated your mail system better with your client list, like they're going to try to figure out what business can we steal from Salesforce, what business can we steal from Apple. It's too early to say, but to your point, Mike, if Apple is Nike selling shoes to the people at the end of in the front, then Amazon is the factories in Asia making the shoes for Nike, right? You don't see it, but that's what enables all of this. Amazon is how much percentage of the internet's infrastructure runs through Amazon Web Services? It's like
a lot,
like
an insane amount.
It's like 60%. It's out of control.
Okay, so again, I asked the question in a specific way relative to artificial intelligence. Now, everything you just described is merely what has existed forever, just dolled up in this new phrase, right? It's an algorithm. It's a learning software that's designed to accommodate you based around what interests you and what you would have a vested interest in continuously investing in, right? If that's the best way to put it. So the algorithm from an AWS perspective, to your point, is designed to capture as much of the money and data sets that I, as the business, am willing to provide in exchange for enhancing my business. But I'm still failing to understand over a period of time, right? This is the learning technology is designed to understand habits and create predictive behaviors based around its artificial intelligence. What is that service providing now that differs it from an algorithm? I guess the point I'm trying to make is it just a glorified algorithm instead of artificial intelligence?
At this early stage, I'm going to say no, and I agree with you. But also, if you put into ChatGPT right now, what are the aspects of my business that could improve it that I'm not aware of? It will find it for you. And I think that is exactly what Amazon's going to do with this on the back end of your business. How can we help these people?
So this is the time-tested issue that I don't think has been resolved with ChatGPT. ChatGPT would provide you with a list of solutions, a list of suggestions, a list of optimized tools that you could potentially implement within your business. Now, over the next 6 months, if you ask ChatGPT that same question, did it learn based around the response it gave you 6 months ago and provide you an updated list? Or would it just regurgitate the same garbage that it basically scotch taped together from around the internet?
Right now, it's regurgitating better garbage because its time has passed. But this thing is learning fast, Mike.
But what is it? My question is, what is it learning? Is it learning my behavior, or is it learning behavior in its generalities?
It's learning aggregated behavior of everyone that's using it.
Okay, so if you search for something forever and you're going to have a different result from where if I search for the same thing after I have a history that's completely different from yours?
Yeah, so now you're getting at how does the algorithm /AI work? This is what Google's problem was, right? If everybody searches the same thing on Google, eventually that's what Google spits up as the answer.
Correct. Which is theoretically the technology learning your tendencies and therefore predicting the behavior on what you're going to engage with.
But there's another element beyond just predictive algorithmic technology here. The AI is trying to facilitate other people's predictive elements are being incorporated into yours also, which is not the case.
So as a business, your interests in your business may be vastly different from mine. So I'm just, again, from Amazon's perspective, if they're going to provide a web service in whatever capacity, that web service needs to provide a return on investment for my business, my customer base, my targeted audience, my branding, my messaging, my product development, my manufacturing costs, which in your case versus my case would be very different. So if it's using this learned technology to provide solutions that are specific to all of us, then it doesn't really solve the issue that I'm looking for.
Yeah, but worldwide, Mike, there's 100 million people that look like you in the business world. You know what I mean? Like, and same with me.
But
so it is learning.
Those are 100 million competitors.
Yes, exactly.
But the other thing that it does too, though, is it learns as you learn, if that makes any sense. So an example of this was when we were home at Christmas and my brother-in-law was playing a playlist on Spotify over the speakers while we were having dinner one night. And I said, wow, these are really great songs. So he shared the playlist with me, but then Spotify modified that playlist which he just shared with me, to take out some songs that didn't think I would like and put in the songs around the genres that I play in my Spotify. Even though I actually wanted the exact list that he had, it wouldn't give it to me.
It took out the Beatles and put in Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or New Kids on the Block. Shout out Danny Wood. The original question that you had, though, right, is the machine learning based around us? No, we are now shifting our train of thought based around the output that is now providing to us. And I think we talked about this many moons ago when this whole thing first surfaced. This is the danger area where this technology gets us to, because now we're relying on that to formulate a train of thought versus the other way around. At least with Google will provide you vetted results based around your search history, keywords and key phrases that you're looking for at that particular moment, your location, whatever issues you're looking up. You still provide that valuable input. The technology that we're in looking at right now, and AWS and Amazon, whatever this system is, it will expedite that on the business front on how to conduct and run a business. But it will provide those particular solutions, I think, anyway, based around what we've seen. It will provide those particular solutions that will train people's minds to start thinking along those predictive responses, right? So you're going to put in an input and you're going to say, I want it to be formulated and regurgitated in this, and this way. So people's input variable is now going to shift based around the output that the AI is starting to train us with. This is the danger of where we're starting to get with this.
So, Mike, I don't disagree with you, but before 2009, when Uber was launched, it was a bad idea for teenage girls to get into cars with strangers. But then now everyone does that, right? So it seemed like it was really going to be a bad, dangerous thing, and now it's just common practice. And whether we like it or not, common practice, everyone's using these tools. It is learning. It's going to continue. And so
I'm just very skeptical on the learning capabilities that this really has as this AI. That's the whole point of what my comments are here. And when you start escalating that to a business front as a service that Amazon of all places is going to provide, man, they better be able to showcase a particular return on investment that's more than, hey, here's a list of all the cool things, because you asked about, you asked ChatGPT, give me a list of top 10 things I should think about today.
Okay. I agree. I was going to, Michelle, final comments. I'll take us to story number 2.
So I think one of the things to note from this article is that despite the fact that the headline says they've invested $4 billion, they actually haven't done that. What they've done is they are investing initially 1.25. And when you actually go to Amazon's website and look at the release that they put out, there are very specific, it looks like, criteria around what that money is to be used for. And it's about certain development of the model and certain product output. Then it says that they have the option to invest a further $2.75 billion. Interesting to think about that when we know that Microsoft has put $13 billion already into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like, when you go to the sea and you'd really like to swim, but it's a bit of a cold day. So you put your toe into the water to test how cold the water is to decide whether or not you're going to go in. Now, you might put your whole foot in, but that doesn't mean you're actually swimming.
Yeah. So
final.
Go ahead. You go first.
No, go.
But I was going to say, for comparison, just for context, I'll let you comment. Google have put 300 million in. So for 1.3 billion, Amazon is definitely going to be running the show. Go ahead, Mike.
It's a glorified arms race, right? It's a measuring contest to be polite here. Yeah. But I think that again, I'll ask the question that I asked 5 months ago now. Did ChatGPT 6 was ChatGPT 6 created by ChatGPT 5?
At some point, yes.
But it's not.
So this is getting into the Terminator singularity type stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this thing, is that it does better than humans, right?
The whole point of it, I guess, is the speed of which it can be conducted, right? I think that's really the one thing that has impressed a lot of people.
Right. And the ease of use. It's been way easier than we thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's still learning curves and things like that to provide the output that you need. And there's, still, again, very infant stages of this. I'm not suggesting that this is going anywhere. Again, I'm just making sure that as far as the understanding that this is going to become the next Terminator, there are still a ton of fingerprints on this, human fingerprints, right? And we're seeing that with the amount of dollars that are put into this, right? There's going to be people and puppet masters pulling strings here for a long time.
Which is why I was surprised that you weren't more concerned that Amazon is involved here.
I'm very concerned, but I mean, like, who the hell am I to say, they shouldn't do it, right? Again, look, we're a business show, right? We focus on the business applications of this. As a business, I'm looking for the most cost-efficient and reliable tools to help me reduce my costs and increase my revenue and brand awareness. That's my goal as a business. So if this is a tool similar to AWS that can help me provide that solution, I'm interested in understanding how I can do that. Am I going to put all my eggs into one basket like Michelle had mentioned earlier? No. And I don't think any business should do that.
Yeah, good points, all of them. I agree with both of you. All right, I'm taking us into story number 2. We're gonna dip into crypto for a bit, which we don't often do, but there's something in Cointelegraph that caught our eye. Saudi Arabia looks to blockchain, gaming, and Web3 to diversify economy. So right now, Saudi Arabia is looking to broaden their dependence away from oil, and they are embracing emerging tech such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, specifically gaming and Web3 gaming is what this article discusses. They are clearly interested in Web3. We have oftentimes on this show discussed Abu Dhabi has been making a strong play for the crypto industry. Saudi Arabia, I think, has smelled the money involved and realizes, wait a minute, we can get in this game as well. So the Middle East right now, it's still fairly Wild West in terms of the rules around crypto. In the West, America's got their head up their butt at the moment trying to figure out who runs what and what the rules are. And I think that with this potential play for we can win the crypto space, Saudi Arabia is interesting because they have money. They could put up all types of funding to try to woo these companies. So, Michelle, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts? You're actually geographically closest to the situation.
I think Mike's comment just before about an arms race, in AI, it's kind of, we've got probably, is it a 4 or a 5-way tussle at the moment between Singapore, London, Hong Kong,
New York,
Saudi Arabia and the US, so like who's going to come out on top and who's going to be the winner? I don't really know about that. I think that it is obvious to them that relying on, their oil economy, which has obviously made them exceptionally rich, isn't going to last forever, even though I think sometimes they spend like it's going to. But, like they need to look for something else. And something like this doesn't involve getting things out of the ground. And it's obviously a smarter idea than, I'm not sure that they necessarily have any other resources or trying to work out how they're going to survive after their, if their oil runs out or whatever. So I think it's important to realize that they're not the only players in this game. They're not the only countries or areas trying to work out how they can be the ones that attract, the Web3 or the blockchain or the AI companies to their shores. It was Dubai, wasn't it, that we talked about? I don't know. We've talked about several times, but, probably 6 months ago now that they put, was it $4 million or $6 million into a fund to attract businesses to come there. Those, I think, are the sorts of things that are going to be needed going forward, as every city in the world is, with the economies the way it is currently, are going to have to try and attract new business. And this is the type of area that, it'll be in, whether it be gaming or whether it be, utility tokens or NFTs or whatever. They're going to have to see what they can do to get people to be businesses in their countries.
Mike, is Saudi Arabia worth keeping an eye on in the crypto space?
I mean, I think every country is. I feel like that the only advantage that some of these countries have when it comes to leniency in crypto and Web3 solutions is the ability to help fund it. And I think that's really what's going to drive the businesses there. The application and the use case, it's a global technology, right? I mean, that's what is really cool and unique about it. But the ability to fund these operations, whether it's a marketing firm that can either outsource it to any US firm, any particular solution that is Web3 related or crypto related, is going to find a home in one of these countries. First and foremost, they are never going to go away from oil. They are sitting on liquid gold over there, and it's just not going away anytime soon. They will continue to be one of the top producers of oil for global economics. That's
never say
100%.
never, Mike. And I'm not being funny. With Musk is working, the whole electrical thing is a possibility. Like, this may not be.
We live in this bubble here, dude. You go to South America and convince anybody that's trying to hustle on street corners that they need a Tesla. Good luck. Isn't Saudi Arabia the country that was building that wall city as well? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
So this, again, could be an easy integration in how crypto could become an ecosystem, an economy within that little city. And that could be an immediate driving force that would attract people. So that's going to cost them, what, $75 billion trillion or something. So, clearly that, setting up these crypto businesses is not going to help fund that. That's all oil money at play right there. But again, they have the infrastructure, the new infrastructure. Abu Dhabi, same thing. And then Dubai, even better. They have the corporate infrastructure. They have the geographic location. They have the tools in place to become a centralized business hub for this. Again, we brought up the term that I didn't invent and was told to me that, these are the laundromats of the world. And, frankly, like, crypto has a bad reputation of that too. So some of that conversation might get lumped into these efforts. But I think it's all noise, because with the technology, as we've seen, there's a lot of great players involved. There's a lot of people that understand it, and the ones that are going to kind of ride the next tsunami wave when this happens are going to be the ones that are building for their business now.
So that Saudi city is called The Line. It's 105-mile long, 9 million residents. It's going to cost $500 billion to build. That's the plan. Actually, they're already
way more than that. But
I mean, that's, how it is with cost overruns. But here's my concern. You're right. Everything you say, Mike, the money they have the money to fund it and attract. But there's another element. I bring this up every show, and I hate going down this road, but you know where I'm going with this. It's geopolitical. Saudi Arabia, whether you like it or not, as of right now, is under the sphere of influence of the West, specifically United States. And so that's not to say they won't or can't shy away from that. They've been getting closer with China. How you sell the oil, whatever currency, right now it's dollar, determines that. So let's say they move to yuan, or let's say there's some version of you can buy oil in either. That's going to really change the relationship between the United States, which is quote unquote the regulatory arm. And I don't know how this goes, but I do know that it's a factor to keep an eye on, is the politics. It's not just the money. They do have the money, but are they going to want to? Right now, the United States Army is their big defense, keeps that place in power, for good or for bad. I think that this is something to keep an eye on, because of what you said. They do sit on enough dollars, and oil is an endless supply of that, to really bring that crypto industry in. They can fund ventures, they can match, they can do a lot of different ecosystems. They can set up think tanks, anything they want to do, for as big or as small. They've got the money for it. So the crypto
taking the geopolitical argument, into account. I mean, again, you said it earlier, if we get our collective heads out of our asses here on the West, we were a net exporter of energy not too long ago. Right. And, again, with Musk and with all these different initiatives, and look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that electricity just falls out of the sky. It still needs to be manufactured, and there's resources that have to manufacture that electricity. So it's never truly clean. There's still oil or gas or some fuel that needs to go into play to keep the economy and society functional, especially here in the West, where everybody has a massage chair that, has to get turned on at 6 p.m. every night. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is that, Saudi Arabia's dependence on us, or dependence on us, faded away for a period of time in the past decade. And now it reemerged. During the time it faded away, they weren't hurting too bad. Right now, again, the U.S. economy is still the driving force on futures for oil. But I'll reference again, South America. Go down there and tell them, like, oil is a problem. Now they have reserves down there that they could rely on. Venezuela, it's sitting on an ocean of oil, but they have their own geopolitical issues that prevent exportation of that. So again, like Saudi Arabia has a unique proposition because they have the investment to fund something like this. The attraction of the business side of it, I think, is the direction that would allow them to take that next step and probably surpass a country like Hong Kong or, you know, maybe even Abu Dhabi as one of those driving, you know, kind of, I guess, more reliable sources based on the amount of money that they could potentially put into it. I think the gaming side of it is interesting, though, because they're recognizing the amount of money and global influence that gaming has, more so than, you know, oil and cars or whatever. But like the geopolitical argument is definitely something that we're going to be discussing a little bit more as more of these countries jump in on this.
So actually, Mike,
and I think
they've
got their eye on the metaverse stuff as well, because the article does talk about sandbox. So, you know, like I think that they might be thinking strategically about what areas in blockchain and Web3 can they actually target specifically. A little bit like we've talked about, you know, Polygon's become the loyalty chain. You know, like I think that there might be silos or segments of it that they might really press heavy down on to try and attract investment and bring companies in for that.
More LeBron James jerseys are sold digitally than physically. I mean, these are statistics that we know now, right? They're sold more as avatar, you know, I guess skins than the actual jerseys themselves.
So, Mike, to your point on the gaming, this is an article that you've raised internally here. For those who aren't aware, Microsoft is working on a new updated next-gen version of their Xbox platform. This is supposedly, this article comes from Axios, actually. There's a leak in the information flow out of Microsoft, apparently, that they're contemplating integrating Web3 features, wallet integrations, into the gaming platform. That's the Xbox. As we all know, gaming makes so much money in the entertainment space. That is the lead horse. We talk about this all the time on this show. Media, gaming, movies, that's about it. Like, that's where Web3 has had the fastest uptake and, frankly, the highest potential return for these companies. And so Microsoft, which is a leader in that space, clearly is aware of this and apparently is already in motion to capitalize on this. Mike, I'd love to get your thoughts first, and then Michelle.
Well, I mean, again, we go back to the whole gaming component and how much value there is in that. But, you know, this is another valuable use case for something like an NFT, right? So like these NFTs living on chain, living in your profile, you know, these are assets that users can now buy and sell within a particular marketplace when they either earn them or when they purchase them and don't need them anymore. Versus, you know, your current system where you would upgrade your character and, you know, you just have an upgraded character that lives in your profile forever. There's obviously pluses and minuses to all of this, but I think, again, we've harped on this almost ad nauseum. I think it's starting to surpass my app that makes people waffles comment. Once the technology starts being incorporated into the hardware, we are going to start seeing the mass adoption that we were looking for. And it may not be it may be very subtle. It may be behind the scenes, but people are going to be exposed to the technology, whether they realize it or not. And again, what is a digital wallet? It's a profile, right? You get your Xbox. The first thing they make you do is set up a profile. Well, your Xbox now comes with a digital wallet address for every profile that's generated. You might not necessarily need it or use it, but you got it. You can always import one if you have one externally. These are the systems that live on your particular wallet on chain that you can now migrate from place to place. And when the patent runs out or when Sony gets their act together, now you can start talking about taking your profile and your successes and your accomplishments within a particular game on these other various platforms.
Michelle, do you think it makes sense for Microsoft to be looking into this as a potential move for them?
I'm sorry, did you hear the RAF helicopter just fly over my house? Then I think it went over.
They're raiding Michelle as we speak, Mike.
This is what happens when we talk about Saudi Arabia.
That's right, Mike. This is all Mike's fault. I'm telling the police that are watching, it's Mike's fault. I have put that as a bonus article into LinkedIn and Bolt, by the way, so that people can have a look at that as well. I've talked a number of times that I live for the day when I can sell my kids Fortnite skins that have cost us an absolute fortune. You know, if I can turn them into NFTs or something and I can put them out in a marketplace, I am doing that the second it happens, I can assure you.
It might be
So,
2027, according to this article.
I'm hanging out for that day. Don't you worry. But I think that it's a logical place for this to go, surely. I mean, the days of you only being able to use your knives or your arrows or your outfits or whatever in one game and no other game are coming to an end. And I wonder what that means then for the likes of, those particular games where they have generated billions of dollars over the years in funds because
Clash Royale?
of,
I mean, they're all in trouble. You're talking United Nations of gaming is what you need.
yeah.
It should be.
So yeah, I just think that if the individual games are not already thinking about this, they are in big trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it goes that way, but there's a lot of who gets the money is really what this comes down to. So you're talking about integration of multiple blockchains. That's really what this boils down to.
Well, again, as that technology starts to develop and kind of unfold as well, you're talking about potentially different blockchains for different consoles, different blockchains for different game genres, right? Like now you can start talking about cross promotion of these different chains, storage of data on those chains, maybe for even the gaming software companies themselves. Ubisoft can come out with their own chain that's applicable both on Xbox and PlayStation. Maybe even Nintendo for whatever games they have that they put out there. So, the chain segmentation of this, I think, is still very much a real play. We call Polygon now the loyalty rewards and I guess the gifting types chain. What's going to be the gaming chain? Is it going to be something new, something that exists already? I think that if it has any life at the beginning stages, it needs to be part of the Ethereum network. And again, this is what we harped on last week or the week before about the relative differences between what Bitcoin can provide versus Ethereum. This is a practical use case of what layer 2s on Ethereum can provide that Bitcoin cannot.
I agree, but that's not the purpose of Bitcoin, right? Ethereum will enable you to take your Fast and Furious car and take it into Mario Kart. Ultimately,
But can't you purchase your Fast and Furious car using Bitcoin too?
You can purchase it, but you can't move it. Not on that network. Well, I guess you can sidechain it now. Yeah.
Well,
correct.
So what about when someone comes up with the ability to truly cross-chain, move tokens across chains properly, not the pretend way in which we do it currently?
Well, that's what this will demand, right? And by the way, the fans will demand that. They'll pay for that.
That is where I think that, these billions and billions of dollars that are going into this, this AI technology, maybe this AI technology can help develop, that kind of system. And again, gaming has always been a thing, right? Stop playing that game. You'll never make something of yourself. Well, it's a professional sport now. Who would have thought?
Is that sport
much to our parents and grandparents horrified by that?
Having run track for 4 years through high school.
Yeah, now you can do it in VR.
When 15, 20 years ago, we said to our kids, you're never going to have a career as a YouTuber. Get off there.
Guess what?
Then Mr. Beast came along.
Feastables had him, by the way. They're great. I'm taking us to story number 3 here. This is a feel good. I liked it off of The Verge. Spotify to clone podcasters' voices and translate them to other languages. So Spotify has partnered with a handful of podcasters. They are translating their podcasts into multiple languages. This will be available within the next few weeks. They're using OpenAI's technology to do this, and they are matching the creator's own voice with these new synthetic ones. And these are, quote, human-like audio from just text. So this is being tested with a select group only because of concerns around safety and privacy. A lot here to dig into. Michelle, can we start with you on this one?
So what I want to know is, because I don't speak Spanish or French or Australian, no, not really, American, how am I going to know how it's translating properly. Like, how is there? That's the biggest thing for me. Well, I think ultimately it's fantastic, and I actually saw last week sometime an ad on, probably on Twitter, X, or maybe it could have been on LinkedIn, about you can actually translate your sales messages or your ads or whatever into different languages so that your message can be, spread across the globe better than ever before, which is fine. Okay, great. I thought, gee, that's interesting. But then the thing for me, the biggest thing for me is if I'm going to have to then pay someone to check that it's actually done properly, like, is that really the point? Like, how do they, like when you watch the closed caption things on your television and it says words and and we hear what the words are and it shows you what it puts down sometimes as, the closed captions. It's not that accurate. It's okay. It's pretty good. But, there's lots of words that it doesn't understand. If you look at the captions, even on our Web3x3 in LinkedIn, on the, like if you look at that, some weeks you go, oh, that's not what I said. That's a bit funny. So how are they going to manage that? So that's the biggest thing for me. I think ultimately it's a great idea in theory. I don't know how the practice is going to, not for a while. Until the AIs get a lot better, I'm not 100% convinced it's a great thing.
Mike, what do you think about this?
So 10, 15 years ago, I believe it was in a Sky Mall magazine on an American Airlines flight, I saw a little device that you connect your headphones to, and you can have a conversation with somebody. They would respond in another language, and in your headphones, it would do the translation for you. And I'm like, it's Sky Mall, like this is going to be crap. It's going to be a paperweight by the time I get it. It's of course $6,000 to buy it from Sky Mall, and somebody bought it. But now these things are all over the place. Right. So, again, the closed captioning argument is definitely food for thought. I would agree, and I would be very skeptical of having that message translated properly, because it's not just different languages. It's different dialects of different languages. Right. I mean, like I live in Miami.
Tone and all that stuff.
Well, it's the tone. It's the sarcasm. It's the different sayings. Yeah, exactly. The different ways to say the same thing, the same phrases, right? So I live in Miami, which, you would think it's Spanish and it's English, but the reality is there's a ton of different Spanish, right? There's Colombian, there's Venezuelan, there's Argentinian, Brazilian speak Portuguese, which is still a romantic language. You have Cubans speak Spanglish, right? So there's a whole different varieties and different dialects. Are these systems going to be designed to pick that up? In order to make that designation, because what you say in one thing, even if it's the same language, could mean an entirely different thing in somebody at a different part of the world.
I think that's the definition of machine learning, though, Mike, is as long as the people can learn the differentiation, the machine will.
Well, again, the machine is learning to translate it into a specific language. But if that language is not relative to everybody who speaks, quote unquote, that language, like there's different dialects of the same language, then what is the machine actually learning? Are we now retraining ourselves to all speak this one language?
I'm going to take this back to the Web3 connection here, because this is what I thought of this goes, number one, audio is much more cozy and personal than even video, believe it or not. Having someone in your ear every day is it's a very community oriented thing. The data shows that it is easier to build community through audio because it fosters this sense of community is the word, like you're one of us. And so podcasting builds depth, whereas regular general content, images and video, builds width, generally speaking. And there's data around this. But specifically, I'll mention Gary Vaynerchuk and Jimmy Donaldson. So Gary V and Mr. Beast, they have talked about the benefit to their community, not in terms of reach, but in terms of the depth of relationships they've built that happened on the back end of them paying people to transcribe into their videos into other languages. And so this is almost, I feel like, use case proof. You're going to have the podcast community is going to have an advantage because of this audio ability to build community that they never had before. Currently, it's a very personal thing. Do you follow podcaster X? Yes or no? And you would tell a buddy about it. It's the old way that things were done. This now enables that to happen at scale. So I feel like this is a really interesting development in the Web3 perspective of community building. if you could do something where you broaden into a community around your podcast and then build marketing tools off the back of that, I could see this being a completely new business line. So that,
But
that
how
would-
does that work though, when great, I suddenly have a community in, Venezuela because my content marketing queen messages have been translated there. I can't go there and speak to those people or do events. I can't do Zoom calls with them necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Like I get that it has its benefits, but it has to stop at some point, and it would stop at my limitation because I am not a speaker. I don't speak that native language.
You're talking IRL events, but if we're not talking in
Yes.
real life, in digital, if I want to have a Zoom call with 10,000 people in Brazil,
Be the same technology.
I can.
It'd be the same technology. I mean, think about the closed captioning argument, right?
Yeah.
You
How
can
many
translate that to different languages.
One of the biggest names in that space, let's just say social media, is going to be Gary Vaynerchuk. How many people has he actually met versus have heard him and watched him? And I
don't know. Yes, that's probably true.
I would segue this to a comedian, right? A comedian who's a big name and travels the world. Like, when Chris Rock goes to Brazil, he doesn't do his act in Portuguese.
So I'll tell you what they do. Bruce Springsteen goes down
doesn't.
to South America, Germany. He'll say one sentence in that native tongue, which he probably was taught backstage an hour earlier.
Yeah.
And they go nuts.
They go ballistic. And then the rest is in English.
Yep.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
I'm a jelly donut. Right. So that's basically what'll happen. And I really think that that's a way to foster community in a larger sense. You could build an entire community and release NFTs specific to countries you don't even speak the native language. You never need to anymore.
That could be true.
I have an NFT. Go ahead.
Think about the business potential that this could be for you, Michelle. I mean, like, I'm using you as the example because you brought it up, right? So if you start targeting an audience in a country that you can't provide services for, and let's say you have some sort of a monetization tool in the form of courses, that course can now be retroactively translated into that language. And now you're seeding an entire new marketplace. It's still all of your information, all based around content that you're making anyway, right? That's where I think Spotify helps with that. Now, again, you have to be reliant on the fact that they're translating the information correctly. You can say, hey, I'm here to provide you the best marketing tools for your business so that you can cut costs and increase your revenue. And then if the translation comes out that says, hey, I like cats fighting with dogs, what good is it? It doesn't make sense.
Like famously, when Chevrolet introduced the Chevy Nova, which was the car, they named it after the cosmic events in the Spanish-speaking countries. Nova means don't go. That's a true story. So they ended up having a problem with that.
McDonald's did the same thing. In one of the Olympics, they thought it would be a great idea to put the country flags on the cups and sell them worldwide. They were a major sponsor in the Olympics. Well, Saudi Arabia was a country in the Olympics, and on their flag, it says Muhammad, right? So you can't desecrate the name Muhammad. So you can't throw out the cup. They were pissed, right? It really threw a monkey wrench into that particular marketplace. And, people who obviously understood that component of it, but that's a marketing snafu more than, the ability to breach into a market that you're not currently in based on language barriers.
I think the ethos of this show, new ways to use the tools. Go ahead, Michelle.
So how long before when political leaders meet and they don't have their translators anymore,
soon,
but they're all holding their iPhones or something and they've got things like this in their ears and they talk to each other and the translation is like that? How long before that happens?
I feel like
I think it's happening now.
Here. This is Lieutenant Uhura. I agree. It's going that way. Why do we need translators 10 years from now, 20 years? Like, pick a number. It eventually won't need them anymore. But
the only time you would need them would be if you don't want the AI to know what the secrets are and it ends up on ChatGPT next week.
But here's the thing. No one's thinking ahead and saying, let me build a strategy around this. Let me figure out what type of NFT structures could we create that would be generative to a community, that would be of benefit, would help drive business, loyalty, all the things that Web3 can bring. Audio distribution of those benefits is an angle that nobody's thinking about.
And part of the
even
reason
exclusive.
for that at the moment, I think, is despite the fact that every second day you see a tweet on Twitter that says, crypto's back, baby, as they say, I think that there is still a lot of problems. There's still a bad reputation. There's still lots of stuff going on that shouldn't be going on. And because of that, I don't think people are thinking like that, Mark. I think that they are too worried about what their next, NFT collection is going to be and if it's going to sell out or not. And those days really are dead.
Hence the value of this show. This is actually something we always talk about, Michelle, and you know, both of you will agree with this, but the transactional nature of specifically crypto is a very different thing from the loyalty building capabilities provided by the blockchain. And when people hear NFT, they think the get rich quick crypto bro, but that's not really what the value of that tool is.
No.
Yep. And I think that we cover stories here every week where we talk about businesses starting to understand that component of it, integrating marketing strategies and collaboration tools within their business infrastructure and recognizing that it's a very cost-efficient solution. It's a potential revenue-generating solution. It's a new and emerging technology. It's integratable with a lot of these AI tools that are quickly developing. This is the path of where things are going to go. This is, again, we always referenced Web3 into the web, the .com boom, right? Everybody had to be online in order to be found. Whereas before, you had your community, your little neighborhood, your advertising in newspapers, magazines, billboards, whatever it was. But I think that, again, the more the businesses start to understand the fundamental application and they guide and handhold their customer base through the process, the customer base starts understanding, hey, maybe I can utilize this beyond Mike's Deli down the street. Maybe I can do this for another business venture. Maybe they have this solution in place. And guess what? It all funnels into my new wallet that Xbox provided to me.
From Miguel's Deli in Venezuela. All right. So I'm going to say that this show is not intended as investment advice. Do your own research. This is a business conversation designed to help you guys think of new and innovative ways to use this technology to build your own business. B2B, B2C, it works across the board. This show comes to you every week on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Bolt Plus. The purpose of this show, again, is weekly insights into the intricacies of blockchain and the business world. So I want to thank everyone for listening. As always, this is it's a pleasure and an honor. I guess, Michelle, it's a 1-year anniversary in your case.
Yeah, very exciting. And we've got, so this was episode 47 this week of the ones that we've been doing together. So 3 more weeks, and we'll be doing 50. So we've got some big things on 50. Now, I think it would be really good too if people have any particular questions that they would like us to answer for our 50th, then perhaps they can put them in the Bolt chat or in LinkedIn or in YouTube or contact any of us. And that might be good. Maybe we could take a few questions. That would be I think that would be exciting.
Actually, good point. Drop questions in the chats, folks. We'll scour them and pull them up, and we'll see what's of interest. We can reach us on emails as well. For everyone, please find us in the profiles. We'll put it in the show notes. Final thoughts, Michelle, Mike?
No, that's all for me.
How about yourself,
I did
Mike?
this entire podcast in Japanese, and Spotify translated it into English. So
yes,
I'm gonna reiterate a point I made last week.
Me.
Increasingly, the caliber of our stories is shifting towards very large companies, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Amazons. These are no longer, Mike, to your point, the gym down the street doing a deal with the local deli. We're now seeing real business putting real money, billions, at stake because they recognize this is the new face of business.
Well, I want to clarify something, at least from my perspective, on how I want to approach these types of discussions. While they're important because they take care of the headlines, the backbone of the business world lies within the gyms, delis down the street. And there still is a very practical use case application for this technology on all of those businesses. And in fact, I think more so because it helps separate them from those massive conglomerates that they feel they're married to today. So while we cover these types of conversations and topics because they do, bully into the headlines, just keep in mind that our focus in kind of analyzing and discussing these things are really designed to bring it down to a level where local businesses and anybody who's listening to this who is an entrepreneur or an inspiring one, or runs the marketing division of a small to medium sized company, these are all practical use cases that you can implement too, and that is a real possibility utilizing the technology.
Here. Well put.
And one more thing before we go that I remembered that I would say about NFT collections in the past and things that we've talked about. This week, Pudgy Penguins have plush toys in Walmart. So we've talked about them selling them on Amazon before, but they have now done a deal with Walmart. So this is an NFT collection of really cute little penguins. They are pretty damn gorgeous if you see them. And they realized that they need to diversify their business and not just have the NFTs with the way Web3 and crypto was going about a year ago. And they did a plush toy collection, which they sold on Amazon. And this week, they are now in every Walmart store in America.
And they were a resurrected project. I
got a comment.
They did not start off that way.
The ironic nature of this Web3 technology really getting its real sea legs from the brick and mortar of Walmart.
Well, Walmart's going to have their own chain at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, everyone. We appreciate the support. The questions in the comments, please drop them in there, and we'll get them out on episode 50. Until then, we'll be back next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, LinkedIn, Bolt Plus, and YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Peace.
Bye. Bye.